What happens when a man looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the person staring back at him? Not because his face has changed, but because somewhere along the way he forgot who he was meant to become. This is the silent crisis most men live through. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in with quiet compromises. It hides behind fake smiles, forced laughs, and a life that feels numb even when everything looks fine on the outside. And deep down, a voice keeps asking, "Is this all I am?" You were not born to drift. You were not created to be another invisible figure moving through the motions. But life has a way of making you forget that. It buries you under expectations, distractions, and noise. The strength you once had or dreamed of having begins to fade. You stop pushing. You settle. You start to believe the lie that being average is normal and that wanting more makes you ungrateful. But that's not the truth. The truth is, you're not tired, you're uninspired, you're not weak, you've just been disconnected from your own power for too long. Every man reaches this edge at some point, the moment when life demands more from you. Not more money, not more comfort, but more courage, more clarity, more strength. Not the kind built in a gym, but the kind forged in the fire of hard decisions, discipline, and sacrifice. That moment is now. And whether you rise or stay down, that decision is yours. No one is coming to push you. No one is coming to hand you power. You have to choose to fight for it. You have to choose to become it. The world needs men who are fully alive, men who don't numb themselves with distractions or hide behind excuses, men who refuse to live a passive life. You weren't made to watch your potential die a slow, quiet death. You were made to lead, to conquer, to rise. But to do that, you must break the patterns that are keeping you small. You must destroy the habits that are making you forget your own strength. That's what this message is about. That's what this transformation demands. If you've ever felt like something inside you is unfinished, if you've ever had a moment where you felt like you were meant for more, then stay with this. Don't click away. Because what's coming next isn't just motivation, it's instruction, it's clarity. It's a path back to the man you were always meant to be. Each habit we'll uncover is a key. One by one, you'll learn how to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Not just to look strong, but to live with real, grounded strength that no one can take from you. You've been asleep long enough. It's time to wake up. It's time to rise. And if you commit to this process, truly commit, the man you become will shock the world. But more importantly, he'll finally make you proud. Strength is no longer measured by how much you can lift, but by how much you can carry in silence. In a world that rewards surface and spectacle, true strength is now found in depth, in your ability to stay grounded when everything around you is chaos. It's not your muscles that make you powerful, it's your mindset. Your ability to command yourself when the voices of doubt grow louder, your discipline when no one is watching, your emotional control when most would break. This is what separates boys from men and men from leaders. The reality is this: most men are exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing too little of what makes them feel alive. You weren't built to chase comfort, scroll endlessly, or float through your days avoiding challenge. You were built to create, to face resistance, to fight for something meaningful. And yet you've been conditioned to play it safe, to avoid risk, to silence your instincts. But safety isn't strength, it's a slow death. And every time you run from difficulty, you teach yourself that you're not capable. Every time you avoid the hard path, you rob yourself of growth. There's a reason you feel unfulfilled after hours of distraction. There's a reason the easy road always feels empty. Because deep inside you, there's a part of you that knows the stronger you is being suffocated by the weaker one. Not because you don't have what it takes, but because you've stopped demanding it from yourself. But strength doesn't arrive by chance, it arrives by choice. Every single day you decide who you're becoming by what you allow, what you pursue, and what you endure. The modern man's battlefield isn't out there, it's internal. It's the daily war between who you are and who you know you could be. The habits that follow aren't about temporary motivation. They're about rewiring your identity. They're about reprogramming the way you think, act, and live. Because when you shift your standards, everything around you starts to shift too. The energy you carry changes. The way people treat you changes. The respect you feel when you look in the mirror changes, but none of it begins until you do. Not until you accept that no one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to hand you power. You have to rise and reclaim it. That is your responsibility. That is your calling. This journey isn't for those who want to feel better for a moment. It's for those who want to become better for life. If you're tired of pretending, if you're done hiding from your own potential, then commit now, not later, not someday. Decide that you will no longer tolerate weakness inside yourself. Decide that your future will be built on strength, discipline, and purpose. And with that decision, the process begins. The world may not notice it yet, but you will, because you'll feel it, the awakening of something powerful inside you, something unbreakable. Every man who has ever rebuilt himself started with one decision to take back control of his time, and there is no hour more powerful than the first one. When you wake up early, before the noise, before the distractions, before the world tries to pull you in 1,000 directions, that's where clarity lives. That's where power lives. Because in that stillness, there's only you and your intent. No excuses, no hiding, just the raw truth of what you're willing to do when no one else is watching. The reason most men stay stuck isn't lack of talent or intelligence. It's the addiction to sleeping through their potential. Hitting snooze isn't just a button on your alarm. It's a signal to your brain that discipline can wait, that purpose isn't urgent. But strength is not built in comfort. It's built in resistance. And every morning you choose to rise before your weakness does. You tell your mind who's in charge. You start the day as a creator, not a reactor. You don't wait for motivation. You build it through motion. The early hours aren't just quiet, they're clean. They're untouched by the world's expectations, untouched by other people's needs. That time belongs to you. It's when your mind is sharpest and your willpower is strongest. What you do in that space sets the tone for everything that follows. It's not just about productivity, it's about identity. A man who owns his morning begins to own his life. He doesn't beg for time, he commands it. He doesn't chase purpose, he creates it through action. This habit isn't just physical, it's deeply psychological. When you wake up early with purpose, you begin your day with a small but powerful victory. That win creates momentum, and momentum is the engine of transformation. You stack one disciplined decision on top of another, and suddenly you're no longer dragging yourself through the day, you're leading it. You're no longer at the mercy of emotion. You've anchored yourself in direction. That's what separates men who rise from men who repeat the same cycle every day. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters what you choose when it's hard. The first time will be uncomfortable. Your body will resist. Your mind will negotiate. But discomfort is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're stepping into a new identity, one decision, one morning, 1 hour of purpose, and you begin to silence the weaker version of you that's kept you caged for too long. This is where power starts, not in grand moments, but in quiet ones. Not when the world is watching, but when you're alone with yourself and still choose discipline. Strength begins the moment you stop living on autopilot and start living on purpose. Or wake up with fire, with intent, with conviction. Don't wait for your life to change. Wake up and change it. The man you're becoming is counting on it. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It whispers soft lies that tell you you're fine where you are, that you're doing enough, that change can wait. But every time you choose comfort over challenge, you trade long-term strength for short-term ease. You weaken the muscle of your will. You make it easier to say no to effort and yes to mediocrity. Strength doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from stepping into it, willingly, repeatedly, relentlessly, until it becomes your training ground, not your fear. You become powerful when you stop avoiding pain and start embracing it as a tool. Pain reveals what needs to be strengthened. It exposes weakness not to shame you, but to guide you. The brain's first instinct is to run from discomfort. It's wired for survival, not greatness. But survival won't make you powerful. Comfort zones are cages built from fear. And every time you choose comfort, you tighten the lock on your own potential. If you want to rise, you must learn to see pain differently. Not as punishment, but as the path. Every time you push your body beyond its limits, you're not just training muscles, you're training your mind to obey your will. Every cold shower, every grueling workout, every hard conversation you don't want to have but choose to face, these are the bricks of mental strength. You stop waiting for life to be easy and start getting stronger than what stands in your way. You develop grit. You develop hunger. You develop a refusal to be fragile in a world that breaks the weak. Most men live soft lives because they've been told that comfort is the reward. But the real reward is power, and that only comes through resistance. You don't grow by doing what's easy. You grow by doing what's necessary. And often what's necessary is uncomfortable. It forces you to stretch, to adapt, to evolve. That's why the strongest men are forged in struggle, not in safety. They don't run from pain. They pursue it, not recklessly, but deliberately, because they know that on the other side of pain is growth, clarity, and self-respect. Discomfort is the gatekeeper to transformation. Every time you choose challenge, you rise. Every time you face what you fear, you take back control. You stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. This is how you reclaim your edge in a world trying to dull it. Through small daily battles with comfort, you carve discipline into your character. You become the kind of man who doesn't flinch when it's hard, the kind of man who keeps moving forward even when everything screams to quit. This is your edge. The more you embrace discomfort, the less power it has over you. The more you chase growth over ease, the more unstoppable you become. You don't need to feel ready. You need to feel willing, willing to burn through weakness, willing to face the fire, willing to earn your strength one hard choice at a time. A man who doesn't train his body is a man who is slowly surrendering his mind. The connection between your physical strength and your mental resilience is unbreakable. When your body is weak, your discipline erodes. When you avoid movement, you invite excuses. But when you train daily, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, you begin to shift your entire identity. You remind yourself with every rep that you are in control. You are not here to drift. You are here to dominate, starting with yourself. Your body is not separate from your purpose. It is the vessel that carries your energy, your presence, your conviction, and the way you treat it reveals what you believe about yourself. When you neglect your health, your strength, your energy, you send a message to your subconscious, I am not worth the effort. But when you train with intensity, with consistency, with intent, that message transforms. It becomes, I am building a man I respect. I am forging someone unstoppable. Training is not about vanity. It's about responsibility. Because when your body is strong, you think clearer, act faster, and lead better. You stand taller in the face of adversity. You carry yourself with power that cannot be faked. Your confidence is no longer built on compliments. It's built on competence. Every drop of sweat becomes proof. Proof that you don't just talk about strength, you live it. Daily training isn't a punishment, it's a declaration. It says, I will not let myself decay while pretending everything is fine. Or it says, I choose growth over stagnation. It says, my future deserves the best version of me. This is deeper than fitness. This is a sacred discipline. Because it rewires your identity at the core. Weak habits can't survive in a body built on effort. Laziness can't live in a mind sharpened by struggle. Your character is forged in those moments when you want to stop, but choose to continue anyway. Every man must confront his inner resistance. That voice that says, skip today, rest longer, it doesn't matter. That voice is the enemy of progress. You silence it not through argument, but through action. You crush it under the weight of your commitment. The iron never lies. The grind never lies. They expose who you are and give you a path to who you can become.
You will never regret pushing yourself harder.
You will never regret choosing discipline, but you will regret comfort that led to decline. You will regret strength you could have built but didn't. Don't let that be your story. Let your body reflect your standards. Let your training reflect your purpose. 1 hour a day can reshape your entire existence, not because of the workout itself, but because of who you become by refusing to quit. Move with intensity, train with purpose, build a body that carries the weight of the man you're becoming. Make yourself unshakable from the inside out. Words are not just sounds, they are instructions to the mind. Every time you speak, you shape your identity. Every sentence you say either builds your strength or reinforces your weakness. When you say, I can't, your brain listens. When you speak with doubt, hesitation, or softness, your energy collapses. But when your words are sharp, clear, and intentional, your presence commands respect, not just from others, but from yourself. Power begins with language, And most men sabotage their strength because they never learn to master their mouth. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. Strength isn't in the volume of your voice, it's in the weight of your words. A strong man speaks with precision. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't chase approval. He doesn't fill the silence with noise to feel important. He says what matters, then acts, because action speaks louder when it follows disciplined speech. Weak language leads to weak decisions, and weak decisions create a weak life. Every time you lie to yourself, you fracture your own confidence. Every time you speak from fear instead of truth, you dilute your authority. Words are not decoration, they are direction. Speak as if your future depends on it, because it does. Your internal dialogue becomes your external reality. Talk like a victim, live like a victim. Talk like a warrior, rise like one. Train your speech the same way you train your body, with intent, with restraint, with power. Men who speak with strength move differently through the world. They don't react emotionally to every opinion. They don't waste energy defending their value. They know who they are. And when they speak, people listen, not because they demand attention, but because they've earned respect. That level of communication comes from discipline. It comes from choosing truth over comfort, clarity over confusion, stillness over noise. Control your words and you begin to control your outcomes. Stop saying, "I'll try." Start saying, "I will." Eliminate hesitation. Remove the language of failure. Don't speak fear into existence. Don't speak defeat into your goals. When you speak, commit. Let your words align with your action. Let your voice be a weapon, not a wound. Most importantly, speak with honor when no one is listening. The promises you make to yourself in silence are the ones that define your life. Your inner dialogue sets the ceiling on your growth. Raise it. Talk to yourself like someone you respect. Cut off the sarcasm, the self-deprecation, the lazy language that lets you off the hook. You are not here to survive. You are here to rise, and your words must reflect that. Speak with strength. Speak with intention. Speak like your voice builds empires, because it does. One sentence can shift your mindset. One phrase can ignite your purpose. Guard your tongue. Sharpen your message. Let your words carve the future you refuse to settle for. Make every syllable serve your mission. If you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead anything. Strength begins with emotional control, the ability to master what's happening inside you before trying to influence anything outside you. Most men let emotions run their decisions. Anger becomes action. Fear becomes silence. Anxiety becomes avoidance. But that's not strength. That's slavery to impulses. Power belongs to the man who feels everything yet chooses his response. He doesn't react. He regulates. He doesn't suppress emotion. He commands it. And that command is not coldness. It's control. It's presence under pressure. It's clarity in chaos. The world does not respect men who lose themselves in every wave. It respects those who stand firm, who don't crumble when life gets heavy, who can be a rock in the middle of the storm. But that level of composure isn't born. It's built through discipline, through self-awareness, through repetition. It's built in those moments when your temper flares, your fear screams, and your anxiety rises, and you breathe instead of break. You lead yourself through the fire, not around it. Emotional control doesn't mean you feel less. It means you are no longer owned by what you feel. It means you can face pain without panicking. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can experience stress without becoming chaos. Because you've trained yourself to respond, not react. You've built an internal authority that's stronger than any external trigger. That is real strength, not the illusion of toughness, but the reality of resilience. No one can build that for you. It must be earned. Every time you choose patience over rage, focus over panic, purpose over ego, you gain power, not over others, over yourself. And that's the power that cannot be taken from you. The man who owns his emotions becomes unshakable. He stops being a puppet of circumstance. He becomes a force, a grounded, present, immovable force. Most men were never taught how to lead themselves emotionally, so they mimic what they see, rage, numbness, withdrawal. But emotional strength isn't loud, it's steady. It's the quiet ability to face discomfort without folding, to speak when it's hard, to hold silence when it's wise, to act not out of mood but mission. That control becomes your edge. in business, in relationships, in life. When you master your emotions, you master time. You stop wasting hours recovering from reactions you regret. You stop bleeding energy on things you can't control. You stop living as a prisoner to every mood swing and start living with focused intensity. And that intensity changes everything. The strongest men aren't those who fight everyone else. They're the ones who have fought themselves and won, who face their chaos, their insecurities, their fears, and refuse to let them lead. That is the work. That is the victory. Control your emotions and you control your path. Let them lead, and you'll always be chasing peace. Own your fire, or it will burn you. The choice is yours. There is no greater betrayal than the promises you break to yourself. Every time you say you'll do something and don't, you weaken your identity. You tell your mind that your word means nothing. That discipline is optional. That commitment is negotiable. But a man's power lives in his word, not what he says to others, what he says to himself when no one's around. That inner contract is sacred. It's the foundation of self-respect. And without it, there is no strength, only performance. If you want to become unshakable, you must stop lying to yourself. Stop setting goals just to let yourself down. Stop declaring visions with no follow-through. Every broken promise is a crack in your foundation. Every excuse is a message to your subconscious that you don't take yourself seriously. But the man who honors his own word, even in silence, becomes unstoppable. He doesn't need motivation. He doesn't need reminders. He does what he says because his identity demands it. Discipline is built through repetition, not inspiration. When you say, I'll wake up early, and you do, you create trust. When you say, I won't skip training, and you show up, you build credibility. When you say, I'm changing, and you prove it through action, you evolve. These moments stack, they compound. They shape your confidence from the inside out. Confidence isn't created by compliments. It's built by evidence. And the most powerful evidence is the track record of promises you've kept to yourself. Most men crave respect from others while disrespecting themselves daily. They hide behind intentions and call it effort. But intentions mean nothing without discipline. The world doesn't respond to what you say you'll do. It responds to what you consistently prove. If your habits are weak, your results will reflect it. If your standards are low, your life will match it. You cannot escape the consequences of neglect. You cannot rise while running from accountability. Self-respect begins the moment you stop negotiating with weakness, or the moment you stop tolerating your own excuses, the moment you decide that your future matters more than your mood, that your vision is more important than your comfort, that your word is your law. When you reach that level of internal standard, everything changes. You no longer need to force yourself to grow. It becomes natural, because the man you're becoming would never tolerate the behaviors that once defined you. You will not build a strong life by occasionally doing the right thing. You build it through unbreakable consistency, through choosing the harder path when the easier one is available, through acting on commitment, not emotion. That's how a man becomes his own source of strength. Not by being perfect, but by being faithful to the process, faithful to the work, faithful to the version of himself that he's committed to creating. Make your word unbreakable. Make your actions undeniable. Make your character non-negotiable. If you say it, mean it. If you commit, deliver. And when no one's watching, be the man you promised yourself you would be. The fastest way to weaken yourself is to chase approval. Needing others to validate your worth is the slowest form of self-destruction. When your energy is tied to how others see you, you hand over your power. You become a performer, a shapeshifter. You silence your truth to fit into someone else's comfort. And over time, you forget who you are. A man who lives for validation will always be fragile. Because the moment that applause fades, so does his confidence. The moment he's disliked, he doubts himself. That is not strength. That is dependence. And dependence will suffocate your potential. You were not born to be liked. You were built to be real, to walk your path with integrity, even if no one understands it, even if it offends, even if it stands alone. Because real strength isn't found in being accepted, it's found in being anchored. You must decide if your actions are driven by alignment or applause. If you move to gain approval, you lose your center. But if you move from conviction, you become immovable. Challenge is what forges the masculine edge. Not likes, not attention, not comfort. You grow sharper by choosing the path that demands more from you. You grow stronger by choosing purpose over popularity. Most men avoid this because challenge doesn't give you instant results. It doesn't give you dopamine. It gives you resistance, struggle, and silence. But that silence is sacred. It's where you meet yourself without the noise. It's where you build substance. And substance always outlasts appearance. To be powerful, you must crave the hard path, not because it's glamorous, but because it refines you. It strips away the weak parts of you, the part that seeks permission, the part that plays small, the part that fears judgment. When you stop seeking validation, you stop watering down your potential. You stop asking for the world to approve your growth. You take ownership of it. You begin to live from within, guided by standards, not opinions. People will misunderstand you. They will question your decisions. They will challenge your confidence. Let them. If you fold, you weren't strong. You were simply tolerated. If you hold your ground, you become a force. The kind of man who doesn't chase crowds. The kind of man who leads because he no longer needs approval to act. That kind of man becomes rare, and the rare are remembered. Stop asking if they'll like you. Ask if you'll respect yourself. Stop trying to impress and start trying to evolve. Your life is too valuable to waste it seeking temporary praise. Build a legacy, not an image. Choose what's hard because it's right. Choose what grows you, not what flatters you. If you want to become unbreakable, start by needing nothing from anyone but everything from yourself. The stronger man doesn't seek comfort. He seeks truth and stands in it, alone if he must. Pleasure is not the reward. Purpose is. The more you chase instant gratification, the more you drain the fire inside you. Comfort feeds you lies that sound sweet but rot your strength from the inside out. Pleasure says relax, you've done enough. Purpose says rise, there's more in you. Every time you choose short-term satisfaction over long-term meaning, you sharpen the chains that keep you weak. Every moment wasted numbing yourself with distractions is a moment you could have spent becoming someone you respect. Your brain is not designed for constant stimulation. When you flood it with cheap rewards, endless scrolling, junk food, mindless entertainment, you deaden your hunger for challenge. You no longer crave achievement because you've already tricked your body into feeling satisfied. But false rewards bring real consequences. They dull your ambition. They blur your clarity. They turn potential into regret. The more you depend on pleasure, the less drive you have for anything that requires effort. And without effort, you'll never build anything worth having. You must reclaim your mind from these traps. You must interrupt the loop of indulgence with the discipline of restraint. That is not deprivation, that is power. It's the ability to say no, not because you're forcing yourself, but because you've remembered what you're fighting for. You've remembered who you said you would become. When purpose leads, pleasure becomes a servant, not a master. You earn rest through progress, not through procrastination. You earn reward through discipline, not through escape. Delayed gratification is not just a habit. It's a weapon. It separates the man who reacts from the man who builds. It creates space between impulse and decision, and in that space is where self-respect grows. When you delay pleasure, you reclaim your time, your focus, your ambition. You stop consuming and start creating. You stop avoiding and start facing. You trade the fleeting high for the permanent gain, and in that exchange, your character is shaped. You were not built to feel good all the time. You were built to conquer, to evolve, to pursue something that outlives the moment. Every sacrifice you make for purpose strengthens your identity. Every time you resist the easy path, your inner voice grows louder, stronger, sharper. That voice becomes your compass. And that compass will guide you through every storm life throws at you. But it must be earned through discipline. This is not about perfection. It's about intention. It's about choosing to live like your life matters, like your time matters, like your mission cannot be delayed one more day. Let the world chase comfort. Let them drown in distraction.
You weren't made for that. You were made to lead yourself.
And that starts by removing the things that make you numb so you can feel what actually matters. Don't let comfort kill your calling. Trade temporary pleasure for permanent power. Let purpose be your fuel and never look back. Time is the most unforgiving currency you will ever spend. Every second is a decision. Every hour is a declaration of what you truly value. And the harsh truth is, most men waste their lives not because they lack ambition, but because they never master time. They drift through the day reacting, distracted, and directionless, then wonder why their lives feel empty. You cannot build strength in chaos. You cannot build purpose in disorder. If your time is undisciplined, your life will be too. The man who owns his time owns his future. He doesn't wait for motivation to act. He doesn't let urgency determine priority. He builds his life around structure because he understands that freedom comes from discipline, not from doing whatever feels good in the moment. You don't need more hours in a day. You need more clarity about what matters. And you need the courage to cut out everything that doesn't. Distraction is not harmless. It's a thief. It steals your attention, your energy, your progress. It convinces you that meaningless tasks are urgent and meaningful goals can wait. But every minute wasted is a minute you never get back. That's not just a loss of time, it's a loss of power. A man who can't manage his focus will never master his life. You must train your mind to protect your attention like your survival depends on it, because it does. The strongest men are not those who do the most. They are those who do the right things relentlessly. They don't chase busy work. They pursue impact. They don't fill their days with noise. They fill them with intention. Their calendars reflect their values. Their mornings start with direction. Their nights end with reflection. Every moment is either invested or wasted. There is no neutral time. It is either building you or breaking you. If your life feels chaotic, it's not because you're doing too much. It's because you're doing too little of what actually matters. Audit your time. Confront your habits. Ask yourself what you're building with each passing hour. Is it strength or is it stagnation? Is it clarity or confusion? Is it the man you respect or the one you're tired of being? The answer lives in your routines, not your intentions. Order is masculine. Structure is power. Consistency is freedom. The more disciplined your schedule, the more energy you have for what counts. And when you operate from that level of control, life stops pulling you in all directions. You move with force. You move with precision. You start shaping outcomes instead of reacting to them. You don't need more time. You need to stop wasting the time you already have. Make your minutes count. Design your days with the seriousness of a man who knows what's at stake. This is your one life. Don't manage it casually, command it deliberately. Every hour matters. Make it prove that you do too. Your environment is either building you or breaking you. It's not neutral. The places you go, the voices you allow, the energy you surround yourself with, all of it shapes your mind, your habits, your ambition. You cannot expect to grow strong while living in weak conditions. You cannot expect to stay focused while surrounded by distractions. If the people near you don't challenge your complacency, they are feeding it. If the space you live in encourages laziness, it is working against your mission. Everything around you is either sharpening your edge or dulling it. You must choose what stays and what goes. Your environment is a reflection of your standards. If you tolerate noise, you'll live in chaos. If you tolerate gossip, you'll live in drama. If you tolerate low-effort energy, you'll eventually mirror it. That's the trap. You start adapting to what's around you, even when it's killing your progress. Strength isn't just internal. It requires external alignment. You must build a life that reinforces the man you're becoming, not the one you're trying to escape. This means you audit your circle with brutal honesty, not with hate, but with clarity. Ask yourself, do the people closest to me respect growth? Do they demand accountability? Or do they normalize excuses, distractions, and settling? Loyalty to mediocrity will cost you your greatness. You don't need to hate anyone, but you do need to protect your vision like it's life or death, because it is, and you cannot afford to be casual about what enters your mental space. Clean up your surroundings, organize your environment, remove the clutter that drains your focus, build a space that breathes purpose, create order that fuels discipline. Your external world impacts your internal world more than you realize. When your space is intentional, your behavior follows. When your environment is high standard, laziness feels uncomfortable. That's how you reinforce transformation, not just through willpower, but through atmosphere. Cut out the noise. Limit the voices that pollute your clarity. The world is full of opinions. Most are worthless. Tune them out. Tune in to your inner voice, the one that knows what you need to do, the one that's been buried under the weight of comfort and compromise. Make room for it to rise by silencing what weakens it. This is not isolation. This is alignment. This is what serious men do when they're done wasting time. You do not rise by accident. You rise by design. And that design begins with who and what you surround yourself with. Get around energy that makes you sharper, or get into environments that demand more from you. Step away from anything that makes it easier to stay the same. You're not here to blend in. You're here to break through. And that breakthrough begins when your world reflects your mission. Build it, shape it, own it, because your future is watching and your environment is either holding it back or unleashing it. You must become a man who finishes what he starts. Half-built efforts lead to half-built lives. Starting is easy. Starting feels good. It gives you the illusion of progress. But real strength is forged in the follow-through, in the repetition, in the discipline to continue when motivation dies. Most men never complete the process. They chase the feeling of beginning and run from the weight of consistency. But power doesn't come from excitement. It comes from endurance. It comes from showing up again and again, no matter how loud the resistance becomes. Quitting is seductive because it offers relief. It tells you it's okay to stop, that no one will notice, that you've done enough. But deep down you notice. You know when you've broken your own word. You know when you've walked away too early. That pain doesn't disappear. It settles into your identity. It becomes self-doubt. It becomes hesitation. And it eats at your confidence every time you try again. Finishing what you start isn't about achievement. It's about integrity. It's about proving to yourself that you are who you say you are. When you finish what you start, you build momentum. Each task completed becomes a deposit into your inner strength. Each goal accomplished becomes a reminder that you're capable, that you're consistent, that you can be counted on, not just by others, but by yourself. And that self-trust is priceless. It sharpens your focus. It fuels your hunger. It silences the doubt that used to slow you down. You begin to carry yourself differently, not because you're pretending, but because you've earned the right to walk with certainty. Excuses will always be available. Life will always hand you reasons to stop. But a strong man doesn't ask if it's hard. He asks if it's worth it. And if it is, he finishes. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but fully. He sees it through to the end. He doesn't let discomfort become an escape. He doesn't let delay become a habit. He doesn't let emotions make decisions. He decides once and honors it through action. Completion creates freedom. Every time you finish, you free yourself from the mental weight of unfinished business. You create space for new growth. You become lighter, faster, stronger, not because life got easier, but because you stopped carrying the burden of inconsistency. You cleared the mental clutter. You replaced hesitation with proof. And now, your identity is aligned with your goals. This is what separates dreamers from builders. The world doesn't need more men with plans. It needs men who execute. Men who don't chase 100 different things halfway, but choose one path and walk it all the way to the end. Finish what you start. Finish with fire. Finish with discipline. Because every finish line crossed becomes a foundation for the next mountain. And when you learn to finish, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get harder to break. A man without a mission is a man without power. When you drift through life without direction, you become reactive instead of relentless. You wake up, move, survive, but you never rise. You chase distractions to escape the emptiness of not knowing why you're here. And slowly, that emptiness becomes normal. You become numb to your own potential. But deep down, something still aches, a silent war inside you that knows you're meant for more but can't name it. That ache is not weakness, it's a call, a demand from the deeper part of you that refuses to be forgotten. You were not built to wander. You were built to pursue. But without a mission, your energy has no aim. Your strength has no purpose. Your time gets wasted on meaningless effort, and your mind starts asking questions it can't answer. Am I doing enough? Is this all there is? Why do I feel so lost? Those questions don't go away until you answer them with action, until you define your direction, until you burn a clear target into your mind and align your life with its pursuit. A mission is not just a goal, it's a reason, a deep personal why that fuels every day with purpose. It's what you return to when life feels heavy. It's what you stand for when everything else shakes. It's what turns work into legacy and pain into power. Without a mission, even the strongest men collapse under pressure. But with one, even the quietest man becomes a storm, because he knows where he's going, and that clarity makes him dangerous to doubt, impossible to distract. You don't need your mission to be perfect. You just need it to be real, something that ignites you, something that scares you, something that demands more from you than comfort ever could. When you commit to that direction, your habits shift, your mindset sharpens, you stop negotiating with laziness, you stop entertaining excuses. Because your mission doesn't care how you feel. It only moves when you move. Too many men wait for clarity before taking action. But clarity is not found in thinking. It is earned in motion. Start moving toward what matters. Start cutting away everything that doesn't. The mission reveals itself in the doing. Each step forward removes the noise. Each disciplined day makes the path clearer. Purpose grows through pursuit, not perfection. A man with a mission becomes magnetic, focused, respected, not because he has all the answers, but because he's finally stopped asking for permission to begin. He builds, not drifts. He commits, not wanders. He's not chasing approval. He's chasing impact. That mindset changes everything. It builds a life with weight, with direction, with meaning. You don't find your mission. You choose it. Then you fight for it every single day until your life becomes a reflection of it. And when you live like that, with fire, with focus, with purpose, you don't just survive this world, you shape it. The man who fears solitude will never know himself. Distraction has become the new drug. Noise, entertainment, endless connection, all numbing the inner silence that reveals the truth. But true strength begins when you disconnect from the world and reconnect with yourself. When you strip away the opinions, the pressure, the performance, and face the raw, unfiltered version of who you are. That moment is not comfortable, it's not glamorous, but it is sacred, because without it, you are just a reflection of everything around you, not the force that shapes it. Most men are afraid to be alone because they don't like the company they keep within. They've buried their thoughts under noise. They've drowned their purpose in distraction. They fill every moment with stimulation so they don't have to feel the void. But that void never leaves. It waits, and the longer you avoid it, the louder it grows in silence. You cannot escape yourself. You can only confront what you've ignored. Solitude is not loneliness, it's clarity. It's the place where real transformation begins. It's where your excuses die and your convictions rise. When you remove the world's noise, your inner voice gets louder. And that voice holds answers no one else can give you. Who are you when no one's watching? What do you stand for when there's no audience? What are you building when there's no praise? In solitude, masks fall. The ego weakens. And the truth begins to speak. If you want to become unshakable, you must spend time with yourself, not to escape others, but to sharpen who you are. Isolation is where discipline is refined. It's where the plan is written. It's where the mental armor is forged. Because the man who knows himself cannot be shaken by others. He doesn't crave validation. He doesn't beg for guidance. He moves with direction because he found it in the silence. You must learn to sit with discomfort without numbing it, to hear your thoughts without running from them, to stand in your truth without needing confirmation. Solitude trains your mind to listen, to see, to understand. It turns you from a follower of moods into a master of focus. And that mastery will carry into everything you do, your work, your relationships, your mission, because you will no longer be pulled by chaos. You will be led by principle. This is why silence is powerful. It doesn't just quiet the world. It reveals your character. It forces you to answer the hard questions and make the hard choices. And that process is what separates the man who pretends from the man who becomes. Time alone is not wasted. It's invested in awareness, in clarity, in command. Be the man who no longer fears solitude. Seek it, embrace it, use it. Let it strip away what's weak and amplify what's strong. Because when you can stand firm in silence, the world loses its grip on you. And you finally become the kind of man who doesn't just know his path, he walks it with power. Pain is the price of becoming unbreakable. Most men run from it, numb it, deny it. But those who rise, those who dominate their lane, are the ones who learn to sit with pain, face it head on, and extract strength from it. Growth does not come from comfort. It comes from pressure, from resistance, from sacrifice. The man who fears pain will always choose ease. And ease destroys discipline. It weakens the edge. It makes you soft when life demands hardness. If you cannot handle discomfort, you cannot handle success. Pain is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It reflects your limits, your insecurities, your unfinished business. It shows you what still controls you, what still breaks you, what still owns your energy. Avoiding pain means avoiding yourself. But facing pain means reclaiming power. Every wound you confront is a weakness you take control of. Every hardship you endure without quitting is a line of armor added to your character. You do not grow by escaping the fire. You grow by walking through it. Eyes forward, chest up, jaw locked. You must understand that every man suffers. The difference is what he does with it. Weak men use pain as an excuse. Strong men use it as fuel. Pain will either define you or refine you. It will either break your identity or build it. And that choice is yours. You are not a victim of hardship. You are the architect of how it transforms you. If you train your mind to see pain as a teacher, you will stop fearing it. You will stop resenting it. You will start respecting it. The world is not interested in how much you hurt. It's watching how you respond. Will you fold? Will you fall? Or will you rise with more focus, more hunger, more grit? Pain is not permanent, but quitting is. You must outlast the feeling. You must stay in the fight when everything inside you begs to escape it. Because every time you endure what you thought would break you, you expand. You become more than you were yesterday. You don't become mentally strong by reading about it. You become strong by surviving what others surrender to. When you've stared down pain and refused to back away, you walk differently. You think differently. You lead differently. Because you know your breaking point, and it's farther than they think. You've walked through darkness and didn't lose your fire. That makes you dangerous. That makes you real. Stop wishing for an easier life. Build a stronger you. One that doesn't collapse under pressure. One that doesn't need everything to feel good to do what's right. One that sees pain, nods, and keeps moving. That's the man the world cannot ignore. That's the man who builds, who lasts, who leads. Let pain shape you. Let it sharpen you. Let it forge the weapon within. Because if you can endure pain without breaking, there is nothing in this world that can stop you.